Ciao, this is Mark Marcantonio. I received my Ghost X indicator upgrade kit last week, so I thought this would be the first day that it didn't rain, so I thought I'd come out here and do the install and let you watch along. Just to give you an idea, the Ghost X upgrade kit comes in a box like this. These are all the parts that come with it. That's everything right there that comes with the Ghost X indicator upgrade kit. As you can notice that the indicator disc here has raised chevrons, which are sticking up a lot higher than the originals. So it'll be easier to see those. The big reason why people do the upgrade is because the existing system that came on the original Ghost has a magnet in here that as the shaft turns or the motor turns, it turns this arrow indicator, and the only connection is a magnet. Some people have had issues, particularly if you live in extremely hot climates where the glue that holds the magnet in place happens to work its way loose, or over time it works loose. The magnet will slip, and then the indicator will not point directly where your trolling motor is pointing. And that's very difficult when that happens and you're using forward-facing sonar. I use dual active target 2s, which you can see on I've got the 2 transducers here. So I use one in scout mode and I use one in forward mode, and I have it mounted on the Revolution sonar FFS aiming system, which attaches directly to the trolling motor. The transducers, the rail is mounted to the shaft of the trolling motor, so you don't have any problems with vibration or rough water, running in rough water. And it's a very great, convenient system. I mean, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. If you don't have one, you really need to look into it. There's no other aiming system that works as well. As it turns out, my indicator on my Lowrance HDS Pros happens to be dead on. My magnet has not slipped at all inside my unit. I am only doing the upgrade just to show everybody how to go ahead and install it and how well it'll work. And who knows, that maybe down the road my magnet would slip and I would have a problem, but now I won't, because when you install this kit, the indicator ends up being directly attached to the drive gear, and so it's a direct drive system. So wherever the arrows are pointing, that's exactly where your transducers will be pointing. So, or your trolling motor will be pointing, I should say. So great new system. The new Ghost X trolling motors come with that already installed, but it is available as a conversion kit for those who want to add it to your existing Ghost, which is what I'm going to show you here. Okay, so some of the tools that you're going to need are a T15 Torx bit, a T10 Torx bit, a 4mm Allen key, a small flat blade screwdriver, and a blade, razor blade of some type to go ahead and cut the heat shrink that's existing. You get new heat shrink to put in place of the old ones. What else? You need a heat gun or match or lighter or something to shrink the heat tubing once it's in place. And they recommend that you use a small torque wrench that will cover the range of torques from 27 to 90, actually 2.4 to 8 inch-pounds is what I should say. I do not have that handy. I'll have to get one and do that as a later step. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking this apart and get started. First thing to do is pull the trolling motor up, loosen your knob adjustment, and slide the trolling motor in. Make sure your prop is facing to the inside of the boat. You want your prop to be facing on the inside of the boat, not on the outside. Okay, so turn that so it's facing on the inside. And the first thing we'll do is start with the T10 Torx bit, putting one in my screwdriver here, and we're going to loosen the 2 screws that are under the shroud here. Okay. Okay, I've got those two screws out. Set them in a tray here so that they don't get messed up. You get instructions also, and I am following the instructions as I go along on this. I find that's very important so that you don't miss any little detail that could come back to haunt you if you don't. Okay, so now that those two screws are loose, I can take this shroud off. This is the first time that I've had this apart since I've owned this motor, which has been for quite a few years. Then you can just separate it gently and pull it apart and set it aside where it's going to be safe. Okay, good opportunity to clean my trolling motor a little. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to utilize the T15 Torx bit. And we're going to remove the 16 screws. I'll show you. Now we're going to remove the 16 screws that are all the way around this housing and do that next. These are all the same size. Just a few more. And one there. Where's it? All right. Okay, now we're going to remove the upper housing and the case seal. There we go. Got the housing done and the case seal. Set that down. Okay, now we're going to start working on the circuit board. We got our GPS receiver right here and the main circuit board. We're going to have to remove all these fittings all the way around it and do that gently. Move this to a different location here. So we're going to use that same T15 Torx head to remove the two screws that secure the GPS printed circuit board. And that's these two screws here. We're going to remove them first. One, two. Okay, so turn the circuit board open, and here's the connector, and it actually slides straight up the top. Took me a while to figure that out because there's no clip that holds it in place. It's just friction, like it said in the instructions, strictly friction. So I'm going to set this over next to the screws that came out of it so I don't forget where they go. I like to actually put the screws back into place so I don't mix up which screw goes with which component. Okay, so that's done. Next step is to use the T15 Torx screwdriver or bit to remove the 6 self-tapping screws that are circled in here. So let's see, that would be this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So use a T15 15 to remove those 6 ones. So we'll start here. There's 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. All right. Now, the board's held on by this ground screw. So we use the T10 for the ground screw. Set that over to another compartment. Okay, there's a sticky thermal pad, and that's going to hold this board on. We need to gently pry it off. I may have to use a screwdriver or a pick to help pull it off of that, which I think I will have to. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So now that's up and off. Okay, so we need to disconnect 7 connectors that are on this board. I'm going to take my time with these and study them, see what releases are on them. It would help to have better lighting than I have here. Okay, another little tip. If you're working in dim light, it's helpful to grab a flashlight so that you can look under here and see how these connectors are connected. And now I see there's a release tab on the back of this one that you have to depress and then pull off. Okay, let's see what's the next one look like. It just pulls off. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. That one's just a friction fit. Same with that one. Want to be very gentle with these. Okay. See what kind of, oh, that one's got a little tab on the back. Okay, we got it off. Okay. Now we're going to remove the thermal spreader, which is this metal piece here. It's got 3 screws holding it in place. 1, 2, 3. That also uses a T10. So that's got a ground wire attached to this first screw. Put those over there. Second one. And the third one. Okay. Put my screws back in so I remember where they go. Okay, so now we got to cut these 2 cable ties off. A pair of nippers like this work best. I am going to be very careful to find a good spot to cut this where I'm not cutting anything else with it. Actually, I'm going to take a picture of this first. Take a close-up picture so I can remember exactly what I'm getting into. Let's put the flash on. Okay. There's one. Get on my stool here. There's the other. Okay. Got that step done. Now we unplug the sonar cable, which is this one right here. And that's a little twist connector. Twist it counterclockwise, and then it pulls apart. So that's a counterclockwise twist. There's a collar on the top, and you turn that collar, and that unplugs it. All right. Okay, now we're going to work on the power cable heat shrink. Okay, so there's the power cable. It's got 2 heat shrinks. We're going to cut those with the razor blade, remove that heat shrink off of both of those power cables. I'm going to use my razor for that. Pull them out a little bit here. Okay, guess I should have told you from the beginning, which I've already done, but I didn't tell you, is make sure that your power is disconnected from the trolling motor. Otherwise, these suckers are live and you could short everything out. So at the beginning of the whole process, make sure that you turn the power off to the trolling motor. Okay, I got one done. Okay, I got the other one done. Okay, they're disconnected. Okay, now we use our T10 Torx bit again to remove the 8 screws that are holding this plastic cover in place. So we'll go around and remove those 8 screws. Okay, those look like the new ones. Number 2. Number 3. I should mention at this point, they recommend in the directions do not use power tools because you are dealing with plastic parts and you don't want to accidentally use too much torque and crack or break any of the plastic parts. So everything comes out pretty quickly. No need to be impatient. 4. Wow, that's a powerful magnet in there. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Got those done. Now we can lift the gear cover away from the head casing. Okay, so we're going to remove the plastic cover away from the head casing. There may be a little bit of friction at this location where the bearing is. It's coming. I'm being gentle with it. Make sure these cables are free. Okay. Got those all out. There we go. Looks like they had a little bit of grease in here. Okay, off of that gear. All right. Okay, after removing the cover, next thing we need to do is to remove the uh, pointer indicator gear and the belt here, the steering belt. Let's see, so I'll just go ahead and loosen these two screws, take these two screws out, T10 bit. I should also point out, note that the arrows that are on here pointing towards each other, both of the two arrows. Okay, got those off. Remove this. Back in there. Belt off. Back there. Okay, now we want to loosen these four screws here. Don't need to remove them completely. We just want to loosen them so that they can slide. And that's a T10. Okay. Tighten this one up a little more. Okay, those are all loose. Okay, now the next step is we need to loosen the tension on the belt with this 4mm Allen screw. So go ahead and get that back. So I'm loosening that. Okay. Take the belt off. Set that aside to reinstall later. Now we pull the idler gear out and set it aside for later. So just to show you, there is a bearing right there on top of the idler gear, and there's another one on the inside. And I am going to clean those up and with a cloth, and then I'm going to lubricate them with some bearing lubricant too, lightly bearing lubricant. Okay, I've got the bearing cleaned off with a cloth and a pipe cleaner. A Q-tip would have worked better. Just putting a little bit of bearing lubricant on there. This is a light oil that's designed for bearings. This isn't in the directions, by the way, but my motor has been since the Ghost first came out, so I have a lot of hours and years of use on this one, and it still runs like new, and I'm going to keep it that way, running like new. I have not had any problems with mine whatsoever because of the preventive maintenance that I perform and how I keep it clean all the time. Okay. Okay, the next step is to remove this main drive gear assembly. So that's the main drive gear assembly, and it takes two T10 Torx bits. Remove one. Okay. And then we should be able to remove this. I'm going to keep the screws in for now. And you have to guide the cables through the hole. Do that carefully. You don't want to damage any of them. Okay. Got those out. Okay, and in looking at the directions, I realized I made a minor mistake. I shouldn't have pulled these two screws completely out, or out at all. So I'm going to put those back in at this point. And that would have held that in place, and it wouldn't have come out when I removed the top. So I'm just going to put these two screws back in. I was just noticing in the pictures that these screws had not been removed yet. So somehow I read that into the directions that where it didn't exist. Okay, so now that completes the disassembly. From here on out, we're back to the assembly now. Now we're going to install the new main drive gear assembly. And of course, we want to make sure that the arrow is pointing this direction. It gives you some directions to pay attention to, making sure your motor, the lower unit, is still perfectly aligned to the head, and that the head here is above the lower unit, and that they're both parallel, which they are. So then we're going to route these cables through. Take your time, do them little bit at a time. Don't want to damage the connectors. Make sure I get this connector. over there like that. Got all those through. Okay, so all the wires that come from the shaft need to come through this hole in the center of the main drive gear. There, we got it like that. Okay, then we're going to use 2 of the new screws that use the T10 Torx. Get that in position and put that in. And when you put these in, you want to screw them in, tighten them a little bit at a time on each side so they go in evenly. Okay, so we installed the 2 new screws in here and got them tightened down to the torque specification in the directions. So we can move on with the rest of the assembly. And again, you want to make sure that that arrow is pointing this direction away from the gold pulley. You want it pointing that direction where it was before. Okay, now we want to go ahead and reinstall the idler gear. Make sure that bearing is in place right there, and the bearing that the back fits into, make sure that's in place still. Clean a little bit more here, make sure that shaft is clean. Okay, just made sure that shaft was clean. Going to reinstall that. All right, that's in place. Okay, put the belt back on. This is the motor belt. Put it over the brass first. Make sure your little cable's out of the way. All right, that's back in place. Okay, we don't want to tighten the screw, the tension screw yet, so it says in the directions to wait on that. Okay, now we take the new direction indicator pulley and we're going to install that so that the arrow is facing the right direction, just like that, so the arrows are pointing at each other. And then we can install the new belt that came with it. So we'll put the new belt over top, put it over the gear, and slip that into place. Oh, the arrow turned, so I got to change that now. Be careful when you do this, make sure that the arrow stays lined up. So you can see the 2 arrows, make sure they stay lined up. Mine shifted when I put the belt on, so I got to put the belt on carefully to make sure they stay lined up once the belt's in place. There, we got it. All right. Again, you can see I've got the two arrows lined up. I might try one more tooth just to see how it looks after I do one more tooth. I want to make sure it's perfect. I don't want to. Nope, that was the right place. If I do it another tooth direction, either way, it's a little bit off. So it's best to put the belt around the direction indicator first and then around the inner gear here second. Okay, continuing on in the directions. Now we install the new gear cover. Okay, so we take our new gear cover and we connect the wires through. Bring all the wires through the hole first. So put the power cables through and the wires. Don't pull on the plug itself, pull on the cable sheath so that you don't pull the plug connections off. Okay, put that over there. And make sure we get these wires all in place. All right. My arrows are still lined up. The cover's in place. My cables are out there. Belt's in. Okay, so you want to make sure this cover fits on all the way after you get the cables put through. There's a ridge on the indicator pulley, and you want to make sure that ridge is higher than the clear plastic case that you just put on, and it is in my case. So you want to use a small screwdriver or a pick to hold that belt up while you tighten these torque screws down. Oh, let me get that. And remember, tighten them all evenly all the way around. Okay, this one here. This one. Okay. They're all snug. I'm going to go ahead and tighten them down now. All right, got that done. Okay, now we're going to reconnect the transducer, the sonar transducer. There we go. It should push in, and then we can tighten the collar. And then, okay, it won't pull out. That's good. Okay. And that goes back in this slot here. Let's see, this, need to pull this one out away from there. Okay, that goes in that slot. And then this is the communication cable that goes in this slot. And then we get our cable ties in there. And we put the ferrite back into its slot. Okay. Okay, we put the cable ties in place. We're going to put a little bend in the end, help it guide it up through. Like, let's try it from this direction, probably be easier. Yes. Okay, from the top down works easier. All right, got that one in there. Another one. Put a little more bend in it. All right. There. And we'll go ahead and attach these. Put it in the slot. Anchor it. Make sure this one's in the slot. Anchor it. You don't have to get those real tight. You just want them snug so they don't move out of place. And then we can go ahead and clip those. All right. Those are good. Ferrite's in place. All that's looking good. Okay, now we can work on the putting new heat shrink in on these cables. So get the new heat shrink material. Get that opened up. Slide it up the cable. Now red wire to the red wire, and put the cable back, this heat shrink in the center. Go ahead and heat that up. Sorry for the noise. Get centered up, let it get on there tight. All right, that one's on. Do the other one now. All right, got that in place. Centered. Make sure it's good and tight so they don't move. That's your insulation. All right. Okay, so looking at the directions and reading them again, I just noticed there was a note, and this cable tie that holds the sonar cable in place, I should have had this cable inside it also. So I'm going to cut that cable tie back off, reinstall a new one. Luckily, they give you extras. Okay, so do this again. Put that down through the slot. There we go. Okay, so put that sonar cable in the slot. Bring this connector through too. All right. Trim that. There we go. Okay, and just as a final check, I'm going to revert back to my phone picture. Take a look at that. Yep, that's how it was. Okay, good. Okay, so I made another mistake. So I want to point it out to you so that you don't have the same thing happen to you. I noticed when I put this all back together again that I was missing a plug. It didn't match my photograph. So I pulled the cover back off and I see that the cable for my missing plug is going behind the gear. So when I installed the main drive gear, I didn't make sure that this plug was out of the way. So now I'm going to have to loosen that main gear and get that plug back out. So bear with me and I'll get that taken care of. Okay, I took out the two screws to hold the main gear, and there's my cable that was stuck behind it. So now I get to put it all back together again. Won't take me long though. Okay, so there's the lesson to be learned. It really pays to have good lighting when you're doing this. Had I had good lighting here, if I'd had a spotlight shined on this, I would have noticed that I was missing this plug right here because it got stuck behind the main gear when I reinstalled that gear. So I was able to take the screws out, remove the plug from behind it without having to cut the heat shrink on the power cables. So it really wasn't a big problem. It only took me a few minutes to go ahead and make that readjustment. So now I have all the plugs ready, take cable ties, holding down both this one and the transducer cable. So we're all ready for the next step. Everything's in place in the grooves. All the wires are clear. Okay, so the next step is to go ahead and tighten the tension here with the screw, the Allen screw. Right about there. And that's supposed to be tightened to 2.4 inches per pound. So alternatively, you can tighten this to 12 pounds of pressure and then just back off one full turn, which is what I did there. Okay, so now that's set. Now we tighten this plate back here. So the first thing we do is tighten these two screws, and then we'll tighten these two afterwards. So that will keep the tension set right where it's supposed to be. All right. Put that back in place. Okay, those are all tightened. Next thing is to reinstall the thermal spreader. Okay. So I'm going to put one screw in here first. This one goes through the ground wire. And those, use your torque screwdriver. You want to tighten that to 8 inches per pound in each one of these, which I'll get done next. Okay, got those all torqued down properly. Now let's see what the next step is. Now we reinstall the head controller PCBA and GPS PCBA. So we're going to start plugging in the circuit board. Okay, so we'll start putting these in. Okay. That one in. That in. That one in. Get in your way here. This little one in. Okay, those are all in. Just got to get this one in. Have to get to the other side on this one. All right, that's in. All right, got them all in place. Okay. Okay, we got to reinstall this. GPS board. Okay, that's connected. Get this back into position. Very good. All right. Yeah, that one takes the bigger Torx. T15 screws go in there. Okay, so connect it. Okay, now we install the T15 screws to the head controller. Use the T15 Torx screwdriver or bit to reinstall the 6 panhead screws that secure the head controller PCBA onto the gear cover and tighten. So we've got okay, there's one. Just get them started here. Two. Three. I'm not tightening them down yet. I'm just putting them in place. 4. Five. Try that again. 6. And these get torqued down to 6" per pound foot, which I'll do with my wrench after I get them all in place. Okay, now I'll get my Torx screwdriver and get those down to 6" per pound. Okay, those are all torqued down to 6" per pound. Now I'm going to put the grounding machine screw in up here. And that takes a T10. And I'll have to get that one tightened down with my Torx screwdriver as well. Okay, got the grounding screw tightened down to 6 pounds. Now we're going to go ahead and fit the new gasket into the head portion, into the upper housing. Got that in, and we're going to slide it into place. All right, perfect. Okay, make sure no wires are pinched between the edges. They're not. Nothing's there. We are almost home. Okay, back to the T15 Torx bit. We're going to reinstall the screws that hold the upper housing in place. My directions say install the new screws, but it didn't come with new screws. So I'm reinstalling the old ones, which are in perfect condition still. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the installation. Get them all in place first before I tighten them down. By the way, how long enough for me to get this project done? The screws are tightened to cover. That's good. Okay, all the screws are in this position. I just need to go around tighten them. Go by make sure the gasket's seated properly. Okay, this is the hard part of the whole job. See how that's good. Easily tighten them over one more time to the final. I know you guys have shops that you can pull into and work on. But I don't need you guys to have hard water in winter because I can fish around at least. You know, in Washington, on the west coast of Washington, west side, Puget Sound, so we get rain weather, but it never freezes enough, so I can't put the boat in the lake. It's really rare times. Okay, that's what you can see. Okay, we got that done. All right, now let's see. Install new direction indicator cap. There's the new direction indicator cap. Okay, examine the inside of the new direction indicator cap. The 3 tabs on the inner rim of the cap match to the 3 notches on the direction indicator pulley. Tab A is in line with and behind the 3 arrows on the arrow cap. Tab A is in line with and behind, that's this one. Tabs B and C are near the feet of the largest arrow, B and C. Roger that. Okay, so it's going to go like this. Let's see what we got. And there are 3 little splines in there. So orient the direction indicator cap to match the notches. Fit the direction indicator cap by pushing on its center. If you hear a loud plastic squeak during steering, the indicator cap is not pushed all the way in. Okay, well, you have it in there, have it centered. Push in the center. Okay, it's all the way in. Okay, now all we have left is the shroud, I do believe. Reinstall the lower bezel. Get my screws here. Bezel mate in the upper housing. Reconnect with T10s. Change my bit back to the T10 bit. Okay. Make sure that's all in the groove. And it is. Put the upper screw in first. The lower screw in before I tighten the top one. Make sure that's all the way in. Okay. Tighten the top one. right. There we go. Mission accomplished. Okay, now all we have to do is go to the lake. I can't do it here because my trolling motor hits my trailer. So I have to go to the lake and do the testing and the calibration. You got to recalibrate the foot pedal and then calibrate the bow mount offset. So do those two calibrations and we are done. So, okay, well, all finished. The kit was good. Follow the directions. It's not that hard. You got plenty of extra ties so that when you screw up like I did, you can cut the bad ones off and redo it again. It wasn't a hard job. Took me a while, particularly because I'm outdoors and I'm working in the weather. But I would recommend doing it. It is not too hard for anyone to do. If you can operate a screwdriver and follow directions, it goes real easy. Hopefully this video will make it even easier for you. And hopefully it'll help you see some of the mistakes that you can make along the way and that they are easily correctable and you can take care of it yourself. So hope this helps. Please, if you would, do me a favor and help support the channel so I can continue to put out these type of videos for you. It does take a lot of work. All I ask is a like and please subscribe. And I welcome any comments that you have. Add them below. And I hope this helps you. This is Mark Marcantonio. Ciao.